welcome everybody to the second episode of the Melbourne AWS User Group podcast. We're a month in now, and we once again have our What's New section. Unfortunately, we didn't have any other episodes in between yet. I'm sure that will change before the next one. But that does mean that for this second episode, I'm once again joined by my good friends Guy and Jean-Manuel. Hey guys.
Hey.
Hey Arjen, how are you? Very happy to be here.
Excellent.
You keeping well?
Yeah, as we all are, I assume.
Well, it's a bit hard to get into trouble when you're stuck in your house, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, you can have some trouble, maybe, but it's not trouble that's likely to... Well, no, I don't know. I mean, I was chopping up vegetables the other day and I thought, don't cut your finger off because this would be a really bad time to cut your finger off and had to turn up at hospital. And yeah, so I guess it's not so bad. The curve seems to be flattening, so I guess, maybe we're seeing the end of the light at the end of the tunnel. What do you think?
I think, while in Australia it's getting a bit better, there's still quite a bit of tunnel left.
Yeah.
Yeah, before we go to reInvent, I think there's some ground to be gained there. reInvent, I don't know what's going to happen this year, but I'm not too excited to get there even there.
No, I can't see any international travel starting in 2020. Well, I'm sure there'll be some people who will be quite enthusiastic to travel and would just do it anyway, but I just don't see any kind of significant international travel happening before next year at some point. They're going to have to figure out all new protocols for how to deal with it, how to deal with people coming into any country, I think, don't you think?
Probably. It's not going to be an easy solution for a while back.
Yeah. Anyway, so now we've done our editorial on the situation. Move on to the actual news.
Exactly. It's been a busy month in April, so we'll just go through it section by section, just like we did last time. And that starts, as always, with finally in Sydney.
Hooray!
Hooray! We've got things finally in Sydney.
So one of these that I was quite interested in because I was I'm in the moment working on like probably thousands of other would-be app developers doing a COVID-19 app, and I'm just so frustrated by the availability of data, or lack of availability of good data in Australia, that I noticed that when AWS said there was COVID-19 data on Data Exchange, I thought, oh, okay, I'll go and have a look at that. That might be the answer to my prayers. Unfortunately not. Data Exchange, currently very US-centric. There's a few Australian data sources, but nothing very much. Obviously now that it's opened up to providers in Australia and New Zealand, hopefully that will change, because it's potentially quite a useful service. And I wondered whether the fact that there's a whole of government agreement with AWS meant that there was a chance that might be part of a sort of future solution for a government distribution of relevant data to the community. Be nice if it were.
Yeah, so, but definitely data provider and just in general the marketplace as well, now being open to Australian and New Zealand developers, consulting partners, whoever, is pretty good and something I'm sure a lot of us have been waiting for.
Yeah.
Jem, was there anything specific that stands out for you?
Oh, I love networking. So for me, Transit Gateway support in Sydney, to be able to do international peering, I found that pretty cool. Really connecting your Transit Gateway in Sydney with other region and then use the backbone from AWS to do that. That's very nice. One tip though, you need to have a different ISN number for all your Transit Gateway, because today it is manual routing or simple routing, and AWS want to implement BGP in the future, so you would be able to have like that multi-layers networking across multi-regions. So pretty cool for enterprise who operate in multiple regions.
Yeah.
What about ground stations? Is anyone launching a satellite anytime soon?
Unfortunately not, but it is one that it's one of the coolest things that was announced, I think, in reInvent 2018. It's taken a while to get here, but it's just an awesome thing. Just let's have something to deal with outer space.
I'm sort of surprised a little bit that we weren't an earlier site for it, given our geographication. There's a lot of, we're kind of uniquely placed in the southern hemisphere for satellite traffic, I would have thought. So, but anyway, there you go. What do I know?
Yeah, it's what they said in the announcement, to be able to get your data fast when the satellite goes around the globe. So that's interesting. Yeah, but you pay just for the time you use the antenna, so you don't have to buy your own antenna, which is probably very expensive. Do you think they put them on top of the AWS data centers?
Who knows? Yeah, maybe.
Who knows? Yeah.
The other announcements for what finally came to Sydney are Fargate support in EKS, which is good if you use the best way of running containers, which is Fargate, and also need to use EKS.
Yeah, and you're just a little bit excited about that, Arjen, right?
I prefer it on ECS, but if you have to use EKS, then obviously this is the next best step.
At least you can do it the right way now.
Yeah. Two things though, you can't run GPU in Fargate at the moment if you need to run GPU on the containers, and then it's supported only with private subnet, so you can't run a public EKS cluster with Fargate. You need to be private because of the endpoint. So
yeah, public EKS cluster doesn't really sound like something you should do anyway.
No, I agree.
And the last thing that was finally in Sydney is Postgres 11 support for Aurora.
Yeah, just another number. Still one behind RDS, so Postgres 12 is on RDS now. Aurora is a bit lagging all the time, but that's fine.
So, but then let's move on to the serverless section.
I love the RDS proxy. Yeah, the RDS proxy Postgres, very cool product when you need to run database at scale and multi-AZ. If you had a failure before with RDS, you had to wait for the DNS to propagate. That could take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 minutes. Don't know. And now with the proxy, AWS announced that you can reduce your failover by 66%, which is really significant when you run production stuff. And then you can add read replicas and all of that at scale as well behind that proxy. Yeah, looked pretty cool product. Knowing I used to run Oracle database, and that is so painful. But we don't know the price yet. Still in preview, so we'll see.
I think one of the other use cases for that is with Lambda, isn't it? Just to manage all the connections. So one of the problems you have with Lambda is ending up with too many open database connections. And one of the points of this is to have a layer that's essentially managing the connection pooling to your database for you.
100% right. Yeah, he does connection pooling for you, and then group the connection and relieve the database for that pain. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that we've got a customer who I think could potentially really benefit from this, but the whole preview status drives everyone mad. It's like, yeah, but we want to use it in production. Well, you can't because it's in preview. So you just have to, it's just like taunting you. Here, look, there's this really cool thing. It's coming. Yeah. My spider senses tell me this can't be far away though, coming into GA. So let's hope that it's very soon.
Yeah. I mean, it's already good. It's basically an extension on the MySQL proxy. So another thing that is quite nice is that you can now export your APIs if you're using an HTTP API.
Yeah, I'm planning to make use of that with my COVID data. Build my APIs as HTTP APIs, and then export them as OpenAPI 3.
Yeah, you still can't put a WAF on top, right, of that API. It's still a very light version of the real API gateway. So you can't put a WAF, and you can't put keys as well. It's just a pass-through. So not that secure stuff.
It's kind of the point to make it lightweight. So if you put everything on top of it, then
it's not lightweight anymore.
Yep. Anything else from the serverless list that you find interesting?
I'm interested in having a look at the Visual Studio Code toolkit that's going to support step functions. That sounded kind of interesting. I didn't actually quote anything from the doco on that, but I think it was includes full support for state machine visualization, enabling you to visualize your state machine in real time as you build. You can kind of see a visualization in the console, but you don't really want to work in the console, right? So it'd be quite interesting. I haven't had a chance to look at it and see whether it what it actually does, but I am interested in seeing what it does. I'll give that a spin at some point. Yeah, neither of you have looked at it, I guess. Have you seen it in action or know what it's kind of doing?
No, I don't use your plugin.
I have the plugin, but I haven't actually had a chance to play with any step functions since it's been announced, and I didn't play around with existing ones either.
Yeah. Oh, well, be interesting to see what happens.
Another thing that stood out to me actually was the X-Ray SDK for Go, that it's now generally available. Considering I've used that for, I don't know, a year and a half, maybe 2 years, I was actually surprised to realize it wasn't GA yet.
So that's one of those ones that falls into that category of, we were talking about Arjen, where you see an announcement, wasn't that always there?
Yep. So often. Let's move on to containers. So for me personally here, the big thing is probably EFS support for ECS, including Fargate, which means that there's finally a persistent storage layer for Fargate containers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's massive, yeah.
EFS has had some good love this month, I would say. There's been a few announcements related to EFS that have made people happy.
Yeah, 400% increase in speed in the general purpose version. So that's pretty good, because EFS always suffered from the launch of the product, has this, performance. Then they changed the pricing method. They changed the type of load. You have a high IOP, but you end up with a high latency as well. So now that's pretty good that they increased that 400% on general purpose to serve, website and stuff like that. So that'll go with the container of ECS. But please don't run database on EFS with Fargate. So that's a bad idea. Don't use permanent storage on containers for database stuff.
No, I'll always just put a big XML file and pass that. That's my database.
Oh, come on, be modern. Use JSON at least as a database. Come on. I guess the only downside to that is that you can burn through your burst credits 4 times faster than you used to be able to.
Oh yeah, it's a good point. Yeah. EKS managed node groups with private clusters networking. That's really good. In the past, your node was ending up with a public IP all the time, and that was not really good for enterprise. So now you can finally have a complete airtight EKS cluster, even with no NAT gateway if you have an endpoint for EC2. So we build that for a bank. That's pretty good. Finally, no public IP on nodes.
Yeah, this is only for the managed node groups. Obviously, if you used your own nodes, they could already be completely private.
100% correct, yes. Yeah. And then the support for service link roles, that's good as well. You don't need to create your IAM roles. AWS does it for you. Get logged into CloudTrail. And the biggest advantage really is that you cannot delete the role if you have a cluster running. Where before someone could have deleted that IAM role and then your cluster would have failed with no IAM. Now with the service link roles, that's not possible anymore. So that's a good improvement.
Cool. Let's move on then to the next section. This time, let's just go to databases where we have a new service available. In fact, a completely new name for a service. Keyspaces for Apache Cassandra within brackets, just like our good friend DocumentDB.
Yeah. So there's some licensing requirement there, do you think, to have to use the name in the name that has driven all this, the weird compulsion?
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
Because the official title, I think, is Amazon Keyspaces for Apache Cassandra, so the Apache has to be in there as well, right? You can't just say for Cassandra, it has to be for Apache Cassandra, which I guess is fair enough. Look, I mean, it's not like AWS doesn't get a lot of value out of open source projects and turn it into a lot of big piles of cash for themselves. So you can't really blame the open source project folks for saying, hey, look, you've got to put our name in the name of the product because, we don't want you guys just everyone going, oh, Amazon Keyspaces, it's an amazing new database. And they go, actually, it's Apache Cassandra, you bastards. It's been around for ages. And just because you didn't notice it doesn't mean it wasn't there. It's interesting. And I sort of, the other thought I had about this one too was, I mean, obviously AWS has got, they've got the full set of database options, right? From your ledger database and, all the flavors, right? But this seems to me to be very similar to Dynamo, isn't it? So I just wondered what maybe customers might leak from Dynamo, which they've obviously spent a lot of years really pushing people towards. Did you see a lot of possibility that people might sort of choose this over Dynamo?
I suspect that this is a bit more, if Dynamo doesn't quite reach your requirements, that this is a step up from that in complexity and abilities, what you can do with it. I don't have much experience with Cassandra myself, but my understanding is it's just a bit more capable in certain regards, and obviously it makes it easier for people who have their existing Cassandra databases to move into AWS, or at least move the database now.
Yeah, I think it's focused on the migration. You're right, Arjen, to help people who run Cassandra on-prem right now. They don't have to redesign their code, add the Dynamo SDK and their code, and they just move to Cassandra, and then that's or the key space service, and then they have a managed service for that. So it's a bit like Kafka as well. Why run it Kafka when you can run Kinesis?
Yeah. And the big thing with Keyspaces compared to like a DocumentDB is that this is a completely managed service. So it is just as serverless, so to speak, as Dynamo is. Whereas DocumentDB, you have to run actual instances and things like that. So that's nice.
Yeah. And they offer 4.9 SLAs out of the box. That's impressive. Yeah.
So another interesting one here that I thought is Neptune support for T3 medium instances. So you don't have to run as big an instance anymore just for your testing. Neptune is the graph database from AWS, in case people are not familiar with it. And until now, you just had to just run bigger instance sizes, which obviously...
It's not economical.
No.
Yeah, they did that. They have a history, I guess, of launching something with a higher spec minimum instance, and then over time they drop those smaller instance options in, which is nice to see. Just on the subject of 4.9s you mentioned before too, it didn't, and I don't think it's here, but didn't EFS get 4.9s as well this month?
Yeah, that's correct. That's in May, actually. That's just happened today.
Oh, oops. Oh no!
It's this morning.
We said we won't talk about today. Yes, it's this morning that EFS has been voted for 4.9.
We'll come back to that next month.
We'll scrub that bit. We'll come back to it. Or you can just copy and paste that section.
Shall we have a look at the Dev and Ops section?
Oh, Chatbot. I love Chatbot. And now you got the full integration between the CodeStar suite and your Slack, for example. You can integrate with that. That was a big thing missing for Code Pipeline from all the type of pipeline products. So now leveraging Chatbot, which is now in GA, you can set up that for free, and you can have your Code Pipeline alert you through your Slack and then tell you where you are at or your commit and stuff like that. So that's a good integration. Have you been using Chatbot, Guy? I'm sure you did.
No, I haven't. I haven't actually had a chance to use that or an opportunity to use that yet. So I'll look forward to that. It's in my future.
And I love the image builder as well.
Yeah, image builder update is good. Where until now you could only use Amazon Linux 2 or Windows as a base. Now it's Ubuntu, Red Hat, CentOS, SUSE. So basically
all the things.
Yeah, the main Linux flavors that people might want to use, either for enterprise reasons or because they prefer it.
Yeah. Well, and often your workload just is built for, it's not compatible with other things, and so that is going to make it a lot more. That is going to help on uptake. I think a lot of people will pick it up now that maybe were put off by not having the choices available. What about kernel live patching? That came really late in the day.
Yeah,
but it is in April.
It was in April. It was I think it was Wednesday.
That's right. Yeah, I mean that seems like a very nice feature for maintaining uptime on systems that you don't want to bring down at any point, and just having that live patching possible seems like a good thing. TM.
Like for cluster node or something, or container node using ECS or EKS.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in the way we like to build, you can take a machine out and it doesn't matter. So it's it shouldn't matter for most things, right? But imagine you've got that crusty old server that maybe you've managed to get it running on Amazon Linux too, but there's only one of it because you can't load balance it across multiple instances, and there's only one, and it's got to be up all the time. Then I guess that's your use case for live patching. That's going to save the day.
I've run into applications that have licensing tied to MAC addresses and things like that, which obviously is then a good use case. Talking about uptime, CloudWatch Synthetics, also interesting. It's basically, if you're familiar with services like Pingdom, that's check whether your website is up and running, whether forms work. This is that, but from Amazon. And I'm sure Amazon has reasons why theirs is better. I'm not sure what they are at the moment.
It's integrated. It's all in the same console. But I guess the apart from the GA news, it's the monitoring the private endpoints is something which Pingdom can't do. So I guess maybe there's your competitive advantage right there. Yeah. So you can now use synthetics to monitor endpoints that aren't accessible to the internet, where Pingdom would fail you.
Which is especially good for internal applications and things like that.
Yep.
And it is available in Sydney. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right.
On security, talking about new releases, Amazon Detective. Have either of you put on your head yet? And
I had a look at the product. Yeah, it looks expensive. It looks pretty cool. It's another AI service, like a bit guard-duty, right? Which is go deeper and analyze your Cloudflare, your VPC flow logs, and stuff like that. When you look at the cost, it's $2.5 in Sydney per gigabyte. So if you have like 400 or 500 gig of data, that's $1,200 a month, US dollars. So it's not a cheap product, but for a bank or for some PCI product you want to monitor, maybe that's good. But don't try to run that in your demo POC account after the 30 days free.
But isn't Detective more meant for post-incident reviews? So you're not constantly monitoring. You're just telling it, please look at this data so that we can figure out what happened. Yeah,
that was my understanding too. Because guard duty is essentially pulling in all the exact same logs, CloudTrail and VPC flow logs and such, DNS logs. And I think Detective is like root cause analysis. So as you say, I think the idea is you've guard duties flagged something that happened. The idea with Detective is you sort of pull that section of data into Detective and get it to do root cause analysis on what happened. But yeah, I'm not familiar enough to speak with confidence about that either.
A product I like is Secret Manager, and now it integrates with AWS Config, who give you a tracking of what's happening inside your Secret Manager tool, and will monitor when passwords get changed and who did it and stuff like that. So a very good integration with AWS Config now to track changes on your secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one.
The sign-in with Apple, even though it's probably got a relatively limited market, I know some developers that were working with Cognito, and when sign-in with Apple came along, they were just about hanging themselves because of the fact that Apple basically said, look, unless you support sign-in with Apple, you can't put your app on our app store. So supporting that is kind of important, I think, for a lot of app developers. The other thing that we should talk about with Cognito, of course, is the miraculously disappearing Cognito multi-region solution that was released a few days ago. Well, it was a few days ago, a week or so ago, and then unreleased.
What was it? 4 hours later, the announcement was gone, the GitHub repo was unavailable.
Yeah.
So what did you do to it, Guy?
Well, I'm an elite hacker, so of course I found the exploits within moments, and I don't know. I'd love to know. I mean, it was one of those things where when it first came out, I looked at it and thought, oh, that's good. That's Cognito really needs that multi-region solution, and then sort of I'm looking at it, it's like, oh, yeah, it really doesn't solve all the problems. It only solves like one of the problems. It doesn't solve all the kind of gnarly stuff. So I sort of moved on. And then when I went to look at it later, it was like, oh, where's it gone? So I don't know whether there was something like dangerously wrong with it, or whether it was just a bunch of people went, oh, boo, it doesn't do all the hard stuff. And AWS went, oh, okay, yeah, sorry about that. We'll go back and have another go. But I guess we may find out in the next month or two if it suddenly reappears and in some kind of slightly different form. I guess we'll know what was wrong with it the first time.
Yeah. Another one that's also a late release in the month was that you can now migrate your classic WAF to WAF 2.0.
Yeah, that's a nice thing. I mean, when I first used the new WAF, I thought, oh, it'll just pull across my old WAF, won't it? No. So it's one of those expectation things, right? When they bring out a version 2, you just think, oh, it'll know you've got a version 1 of these, and it'll offer to import it or convert it or do something. But when it didn't, I thought, oh, okay. But yeah, anyway, I mean, I guess it's probably different enough from the original one that they couldn't support it or whatever. But yeah, so it is kind of nice. It makes one thing a little bit easier.
So it's a migration tool, though. You create a CloudFormation template for you, looking at your current WAF, and then store that on S3. So it's a free service, except the S3 storage, which probably will be small. But yeah, and then you need to redeploy it to the WAF too. So interesting.
Yeah, it's good to have something, especially as I'm sure that you two have also run into where right after WAF 2 was released and you went through the console and suddenly it seemed like all of your WAF rules were gone because they were hidden under a link.
It's become classic now. The old one is classic, so which is like the way of AWS saying we don't want this product anymore. Yeah. Like a bit like the ELB.
But does it mean that they'll just still have it 10 years from now? It'll still be called classic, that's all.
Just like ELB.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at some VPC or EC2 type related announcements. So one new one, also again related in the month, was VPC endpoints for SES. From never having been touched for years, SES is suddenly getting all kinds of updates and releases in different regions.
Yeah, we had Sydney, it was a couple of months ago, right? When SES appeared in Sydney. And now we got private endpoint. Pretty good. You don't have to have NAT gateways open and all this stuff to send to that traffic. You can just use that private endpoint.
Yeah,
that's good.
Everyone was happy about that one.
Yeah, I had a look at the console today, and there is 77 endpoints you can create. That's crazy. That's a lot of money, though.
EB as well, Elastic Beanstalk. So the support for private link on the subject of endpoints. So that's kind of a nice thing too, because one of the if anyone, I don't know if you guys have used Elastic Beanstalk much, but one of the things that was always a frustration when I was just learning CloudFormation and EB in general was you'd try and launch an Elastic Beanstalk stack and it would fail mysteriously. It would launch a child stack and it would always fail. And it was all to do with networking because Elastic Beanstalk has a bunch of public APIs that you must have internet access to get to while you're creating your stack. And this enables you to create VPC endpoints for those interfaces so that kind of thing, I guess, won't happen if you've set them up. Which would be good. Yeah,
and with an endpoint, you can access from on-prem as well. So for people who want to keep that, communication to Elastic Beanstalk private from the CLI on-prem to direct connect or VPC, then they can talk to the endpoint as well.
But Elastic Beanstalk had a lot of things this month.
Yeah, got quite a bit of love. Yeah. The listing platform branches, that sort of will help you kind of manage your existing deployments and know what's running and what state that's in terms of life cycle. So if a platform has been sort of deprecated or is on the way out, you'll be able to find that out more easily. There's been a lot of new platforms. So in April, they had Docker, Corretto, and Python updates, so new platforms for that. And just today, so I'm going to squeak it in because it's all related. They announced also Node, PHP, Go, and Ruby platforms updates as well. So, and they've done some work on consolidating how they do that too. So, in the past they had a mixture of they were using Apache and Nginx, and now they've sort of standardized on Nginx for all the proxy configuration. So that's going to make life a bit easier too if you're dealing with multiple different platforms in Elastic Beanstalk. So yeah, so. That's a nice amount of love, I think, for Elastic Beanstalk. And I guess finally they updated the console, which is, I don't know, most console updates, when you see them, you kind of go, okay, you've rearranged it. Is it better? I don't know. And you get used to it, but I don't know. There wasn't anything about it that made me think, yes, they finally released the new console for Elastic Beanstalk. It's it's just different.
Yeah, I haven't looked at this one, but I'll be honest, I have not been a fan of most, if not all, console updates that have been coming in the past couple of years. Yeah,
I mean, look, I guess they have to make it all consistent now that they've kind of adopted a certain sort of user UI style. They've got to make all the UIs fall in line, but yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit mixed. I have mixed feelings about them too. They don't always feel like improvements, No,
talking about mixed feelings, if we're now moving to the AI and ML section, Guy, I know that you have a deep love for Deep Composer.
Well, I just will never get over the fact that it sounds so close to Decomposer, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a little snippet of something on SoundCloud that someone did. So. Yeah. So well, first of all, let me ask you, what did you think that was that you just listened to?
I have my suspicion because I've played around with Decomposer quite a bit, and I've got a lot of similar examples that I will link to that I played in a different podcast for people who want to listen to somebody without any musical talent doing things.
Yeah, so that was apparently Oasis's Wonderwall, courtesy of Deep Composer. So I don't think Oasis need to be too concerned that they're going to be toppled from the charts with that. But yeah, look, I don't know. It's if it gets people interested in machine learning and AI, then who am I to stand in the way of progress? But is it music? Yeah, it certainly has notes and rhythms and things in it, but it's it's a bit lacking in I mean, it's like when you listen to, actually, we got a phone call the other day.
Human touch, you mean? Is missing the human touch?
Well, yeah. It's interesting. We got a phone call the other day, and my wife answered, and she put it on speakerphone because it was dinner time, and whatever. And this person started speaking, and I thought, that's not a person. That's a chat. That's a bot. And she didn't kind of twig to it. My wife didn't twig to it straight away, and she kept talking, and I said, that is definitely a bot. I said to her, ask her, is she a bot? And she asked her if she was a bot, and the bot just said nothing, then hung up. But it was very convincing. It kind of was almost human. I don't think what Deep Composer is doing is approaching anything like kind of what a human would do. It's still really got the randomness of a machine. It hasn't figured out what makes music to people, if you know what I mean. It's a bit different. Like if you look at what Google, like all those weird Google pictures where they've got eyes in or everything's turned into goats or whatever, puppies or you know what I'm talking about? The AI image processing that they've done.
Yeah.
Yes, we can. But there's something in that where they've there's a human element to that makes you kind of look at it and go, oh, I see what that's kind of the AI is figuring out. It knows what humans recognize, and it's going to give me some of those things. Whereas, Deep Composer doesn't feel like it's progressing towards anything on its own anyway that approximates anything that humans might recognize as the key elements of music. But maybe it will. I don't know.
Yeah, do you think they're going to train the model over and over with new people contributing and then eventually they might come to something good? I mean, like Alexa, the more you train her, right, the better. I think they train Alexa once a week. That's massive work.
The point is more with Deep Composer that you can build your own models. So it's not about training the model from Amazon. It's training your own model, and it's just one way to train those GAN networks or the GAN engines. But that said, so it's interesting, and I just want to ask you, Guy, this whole rant you just went on, is that like the artist version of old men yelling at cloud?
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, it could be. It could just be that I'm unwilling to accept that a computer can make music on its own, or even with our help by developing a model. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing about Deep Racer is that nobody cares, right? It's a car. It crashes off the side of the road. Nobody cares, right? And everyone knows what driving a car means. Like it's not important. Whereas music's kind of important to a lot of people, and I just don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so yes, I'm probably old man yells at cloud. Yes. Get off my lawn, you kids. If you took a song of mine, like, can you make Deep Composer do something with that? Like, can you train Deep Composer to emulate me, or to, like, how does it work? Excuse my ignorance. I don't know how it works.
So what Deep Composer basically does, how it works, is you play the music. I haven't looked at the GA version yet if you can upload anything, but otherwise it's played on a keyboard, either virtual or just plug in a MIDI device, and then you can throw an algorithm over it that generates, based on whatever settings you give it, some kind of it adds in additional instruments, and you can change the instruments that it uses and things like that, and then it just creates something that may or may not sound nice.
Right. And that's the tricky part. That's the fun part. Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Unless that's changed, it's limited to like 30-second clips. So it's not like you can make complete songs with it. That's not its goal.
Okay.
Anyway, moving on from computer-generated music, A2I, or Amazon's augmented AI, which now lets you add a human step for your artificial intelligence training. So the idea here is that you have your model running in, say, production, and it will encounter something it hasn't seen before, and it will try to match that against something, but it can't match it. So what it will then do is it will flag it and basically flag it for human review, and that way a human can come in, look at, okay, that was actually a photo of a puppy, not a muffin, and that can then be filled into the training algorithm for your model, and it will improve that way.
So this is like a generalized service compared to the one that's specifically for recognition. Wasn't there one they released back at reInvent for tagging images?
Yeah, that is ground truth.
Yeah. What? So is it similar, or this is kind of after it's made predictions, it's humans checking whether the prediction's right, whereas ground truth is tagging it before you feed it into the machine.
Exactly. Ground truth is for training your models, and this is for
correcting your models.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool.
Anything else you guys want to discuss from AI/ML section, or do we move on to other stuff?
Do you think that the Amazon transcribed medical supporting custom vocabulary has been driven by coronavirus and COVID-19?
It wouldn't surprise me. I think transcribed medical will have just gotten a huge focus. It was probably already on the roadmap, but I would be quite confident that Amazon, like every other company that has anything they can do with it, has pushed anything that can help with that on the roadmap.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our last section, the other cool stuff, which is, as usual, a grab bag of many different things. Earlier you mentioned, Guy, that we're in a unique position being one of the few regions in the Southern Hemisphere, and we just got another one with the South Africa region opening up.
Yeah, a lot of new regions. Well, a lot of new regions, 2 new regions, and an extra AZ in Canada. So, yeah, Amazon's certainly been very busy building out their networks this month.
The new regions are in Cape Town and Milan, respectively, which is, really good to see. I'm pretty sure they were predicted to be released this year, and that has come true after probably about 2 years of building.
Yeah.
Third AZ in Canada will be very welcome, I'm sure, for a lot of customers who have a presence there. Having a third AZ is always nice.
Yeah, the third AZ adds so many services that you can't use until you have that.
Yeah,
that's right. It's true.
And based on some research that did for a blog post a while back, that make Beijing the only full region that is left with only 2 availability zones.
Right. And I guess they're somewhat hamstrung in Beijing, as in they're probably not at liberty to just do whatever they like there. They have to consult widely with the Chinese government or whatever to make stuff happen there.
Yeah, I'm not sure how things work there.
Or they simply don't have the demand, right?
Yeah. Because in the other region in China does have 3 AZs. It's just the Beijing one that doesn't. Maybe it will get updated. Maybe it won't. I feel like there are some more limitations because it's also behind with a lot of services. But yeah, we'll see over time whether the idea of 2 AZs will completely disappear or if we will still have that one left over.
An improvement to Control Tower? Yeah. Improvement to Control Tower. I don't especially love that service, but AWS is really pushing for that product as a landing zone. And now finally you can install Control Tower into an existing organization where before it was not possible. You had to create a new one. And now you can import an account as well. Very manual process though, like the rest of Control Tower, the rest of SO is all GUI based. This one is a Python script to import an account. And you run that, wait for 30 minutes, and then end up with an account with a couple of CloudFormation templates getting pushed into your Control Tower. And then you go to the next one. So when you have 10 accounts, that can take a bit of a while. But it's a good move if you are a small organization and you don't want to have to manage multiple accounts and multiple security features and guardrail across your organization. So good improvement for Control Tower. We want an API though. Other one is still very, very GUI based, no API. So yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those services that really need some automation love. But yeah, at least one of the big things holding people back, I think, from using Control Tower is because they all had organizations already.
Yeah, they didn't want to have another credit card, another payment system to create a new org. So that's a good move. Yeah.
So I want to bring up one other new service, or rather an extension of a new service, I guess. It's now the AWS Transfer Family. Why do we now have an FTP service?
Because try as everyone might to drive a wooden stake through the heart of FTP. It's the protocol that will not die. And
because of mainframe, right?
Yeah, it's legacy stuff. Just old servers, old software, old people. Yeah, I don't know. It's I mean, we were doing a tender the other day, and it includes FTP between 2 machines. Like the first question you ask is, why is that there? It's like, oh, don't worry about that. It's always been like that. Yeah. And that's why eventually they had to just go, oh, God, okay, we'll give you FTP. If it'll make you put your data in S3, we'll give you FTP to do it. Okay. What else is there? Yeah. I mean, the most exciting sounding one, I'm being sarcastic, is Amazon Connect adds custom terminating key press for DTMF, which seems like such a tiny little thing, but it got an announcement all of its own. I guess there must have been quite a lot of people complaining that they couldn't define a custom terminating key press for DTMF. But yeah, it's surprising. I would have thought that was not really likely to be a big deal, but there you go. I guess it was.
Yeah, and similarly then I guess with Amazon Connect, that customers can now interrupt chatbots, just like your example with your wife earlier.
Yeah. I wonder if they asked the chatbots if they're okay with that, though.
It seems a bit rude.
It does seem a bit rude, yeah. Maybe you have to say, pardon me, Alexa. Would you mind shutting up now?
Okay, and I think that's where we'll leave it for this month. That was everything about what's new in April. Guy, JM, thank you again for joining me for this.
Thanks for having
Always
me.
a pleasure. Always a pleasure,
Yes.
Arjen. Thank you.
Yes.
And of course, I want to thank the user group sponsors, our gold sponsor Enabler, and our silver sponsors AC3 and CMD Solutions. And thank you everybody for listening. I'll hopefully see you again next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.